pulling together all the information and primary data is obviously critical, but ultimately to measure change in biodiversity, we need to express these data in a way that would be informative and show the direction of change and the magnitude of change. So, and that happens through indicators and indices. Lincoln Fishpool from BirdLife International will be talking about indicators.
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, all. I've been we were charged to talk about indicators across the scales. With my colleague Stu Butchart and Stu is, I don't think he's in this room, he's at this meeting, he was unable to attend, therefore I'm doing the talk. Perhaps not the talk that's already been given. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Any questions? Thanks very much. Right, try again. Okay, yes, I want to thank Stu Butchart for helping me put this together, particularly the front end of this talk at this point. It's their expertise than mine. The hierarchy driver pressure state impact response system was suggested recently that it should be perhaps simplified to this response pressure state benefit that was found more useful, and it was suggested that responses should actually appear first in this litany to emphasise the fact that this is guidance for policy and for conservation action, to make its applicability, its relevance upfront and obvious part of its purpose. Using that system, in 2010, a paper was published which sought to give us an end-of-term report on how we had done against the 2010 CBD targets, as they then were. And this used 31 different sets of indicators to assess trend, timing and durations. And although the actual trends here aren't the point of the talk, it's worth pointing out that 8 of the 10 state indicators were negative, most of the pressure indicators were upward, and that despite the fact that the response indicators generally were also in a positive trend. Now, more recently this year, if you like, a sort of a half-term report has been published on how we're doing against the 2020 HE targets for biodiversity. And this paper was recently published, which brought together information on 16 of the 20 targets within that. And again, with similar sets of findings are manifest that pressures are actually not relaxing, they are worsening. And although further the responses are generally in the positive direction, the overall state continues to deteriorate. Now, this paper expanded from 31 to 55 separate indicators. Out of 160 tested, 55 were found fit for purpose. 7 were for pressure, 14 for state, 3 benefit, and fully 31 were response indicators. Criteria included the extent of their coverage, the number of time points, and the fact that they had been peer-reviewed found acceptable. It's notable, however, that But 39 of these are only applicable at a broad scale, 6 but broad and at a local scale, and 10 at a site of protected area scale only. So, and it's, of those 55, none were, no pressure or benefit indicators were then found to be applicable at a site scale. The state indicators relate to extent of habitat, condition of habitat, and population trends of species. Habitat extent is generally derived from remotely sensed information, whereas habitat condition and population trends, hitherto at least for this set of indicators, were generated exclusively from in situ data. Turning now to some aspects rather closer to home for me, the paper is currently under review, which is seeking to assess the global site networks of our important bird and biodiversity areas, 12,000 sites around the world, as well as the 600 or so Alliance for Zero Extinction sites, which are sites with the last remaining populations, if you like, of critically endangered and endangered species. And for both of these, it's been found that we're still only up to about 22% of these sites being adequately covered. Within the BirdLife Partnership, we are seeking to monitor and collect in situ information as far as possible for as many of our 12,000 IBAs as we can. We've developed a simple pressure state response model for collecting those data, using a 0 to 1, 2, 3 scale for each. And the idea here is that such a system applied across the world, integrating information from as many IBAs as possible, gives a clear, a reasonable idea of how things are doing within sites and between sites. The idea here is to get a sound general impression of what's going on for demonstration of this, for this sort of presentation of how sites are doing globally, rather than providing a huge amount of detailed information which is maybe needed at the site scale for local management, adaptive management purposes. Finally, on the benefits side, we've started looking at, with others, developing a tool called TESSA, a toolkit for ecosystem service site-based assessment. My colleague Jenny Merriman and David Thomas have been demonstrating this, presenting this elsewhere in the Congress. You may have already seen that, but that is now seeking to try and provide an assessment of site-based benefits, and this is freely available for download. Finally then, in conclusion, DPSIR, often modified to RPSP, which for somebody from ornithology in Britain, that's actually quite difficult to say correctly. It's proved to be a helpful framework. It has been used in the 2010 and 2014 assessments, and it's likely to expect that it's going to be used further in assessing progress against the 2020 targets in time. And for site-based indicators, we've developed a monitoring protocol which we are trying to roll out as far as we can worldwide. And the latest development, as I mentioned, is a tool for assessing benefits at sites. Thank you very much.